Hi, all. Welcome to GradMissions Office Hours. I'm Autumn, founder and CEO of GradMissions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lizanne, and I work with our law clients.
Hi, I'm Morgan Hager, and I work with client success for the law clients.
Hi, I'm Logan, and I work with our medical students.
We are so thankful that you joined us today. And I'm excited to come to you all with this topic. And just to be completely transparent with you, this is our second attempt to record this because we're a little nervous to talk about it. The robots are coming for our jobs. Right, that's what we keep hearing. We've heard this since, the 90s on SNL, but it is a recurring theme as AI gets more advanced. And it's something that I hear a lot from parents, especially. Like, I'm about to sink all this money into my kids' education to be a doctor, to be a lawyer. Is AI going to take? Is it still a good investment? Should I still be a doctor? Should I still be a lawyer? And I think that's where we have to start. Should you still be a doctor? Should you still be a lawyer? And then how can we make AI work for us instead of the other way around?
I'll kind of kick us off with my thoughts about medicine. Since we've been talking about this, we had an in-depth conversation about this actually last week that we didn't record, kind of around our anxiety about the topic, because no one here is an expert, and I would never claim to be an expert on AI. And so that prompted me to do a little bit more research. I went to the NIH. I went to some other journals to see kind of what progress are we making in medicine and AI. And I actually found a lot of articles dating back even to like 2017, 2018, 2019, which the fact that that's pre-pandemic, I immediately was like, oh, dismiss. Okay. That was another lifetime. I don't even know what was happening at that point in time. But I actually found a really great report put together by Stanford and Harvard about the state of clinical AI.
Hmm.
And they basically distilled like the flashy headlines that you read about what AI is doing in healthcare and what different institutions are using AI, and kind of distilled it down to what are people doing, what is actually working, and under what context is do we see benefits from AI. And I felt like what I saw across the board from that report and then some other articles that I read was basically that AI is not taking anyone's job. It works best as a companion.
Hmm.
So, in research, for example, and I think Morgan might have something to say about this for law, AI works best as like an incredibly fast research assistant. It can take this enormous aggregate of data and distill it down to patterns, important points, things like that. I would imagine in the law space, you would find something similar about cases, right?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely. I think in all of my research, I found that it is very much a tool used to help the efficiency and effectiveness of attorneys in their practice. And it's something that it's not going away. And so we need to we need to embrace it and learn it and understand the benefits of it as not only a practicing attorney, but also as a student. I think there are so many ways that you can benefit by utilizing AI early on in your education.
Yeah. And actually, we noticed this application cycle that several of the law schools are using an AI prompt question on their applications.
Mhm.
So, yes, learning to use it as a tool, using it ethically, and using it thoughtfully is important. I just had a CLE, a continuing legal education, about we have to have, as attorneys, we have to have, 14 hours of CLE every year. And now it's required that part of your ethics hour has a piece regarding AI in it. So it's very much in our realm. And, now we're seeing it in applications, in application questions. And so being able to use AI and get really comfortable with it, in college right now as you're looking to apply to law school is going to be important. And then it can really help you in your practice and just making sure that you're keeping up with, the ethical rules and learning how to use it. But Autumn, you had a really good point about, speaking with parents who are, concerned about this. And you had said about encouraging someone to use AI for a period of time. Maybe talk a little bit about that because
Yeah.
it's really beneficial.
I mean, so we've all sort of decided AI is not going anywhere. It's going to be a component that you're using as a lawyer, as a doctor, that your patients are using. They're going to come to you after having run all their symptoms. You know, it used to be WebMD, making every ingrown hair into cancer. And now it's going to be AI. They're going to have uploaded their genetic tests. They're going to have uploaded all their symptoms, and they're going to say, "What do I have?" And it's going to have spit out quite a bit. And so if you aren't using AI, um, yes, you have this breadth of knowledge that you've been training to learn, but you also need to know what's going on there. And so, how do you get familiar with it? And I think it's just like anything else. When you're trying to learn a language, you start by conjugating the verbs, you start by watching soap operas in Spanish with the captions on. You just have to kind of make it a part of your everyday life. And I think AI is very similar. So, are there functions within your day that a large language model could be used for? Maybe. Like, is it, I have a med client right now who's he's trying to get north of a 520 on the MCAT. And so he has actually dumped his wrong answer bank into his large language model, and it is producing like a sort of a pop quiz situation for him to go over his wrong answers in a slightly different way so that he can kind of understand why he's missing those and how I'm like, oh my gosh, that's genius. That's such a good use case for large language model. Now, is he already using it to, perform radiology feats? No, because he's not to that point in his training yet. But I think using it for the functions that you have. So if you're a law student and maybe you could use this on LSAT prep, you could use it as you're trying to pick your law school, or, even I really want to make my glutes, more firm and strong. Like, which series of workout should I use? Could you write a workout series for me with number of reps and exact exercises? Like, make it applicable to your day-to-day life right now. Start using it in conversation, sort of, so that when you do have extra layers of legal knowledge or medical knowledge, you're going to see those little facets where AI can plug in.
Absolutely. And I always talk about therapy every time we get together, and I'm sorry. But another thing too, when you're going into, the pressure cooker that is med school or law school, if you have been working with um what I call mine Bay, she's my Bay. Um they really do get to know you, and you can say, "Hey, I'm really worried about my time management. Can you help me?" Again, you're doing the thinking, you know your routines, you know what works well for you. Can you help me, set my schedule for the day? I have this class at this time. When should I utilize study? When should I meet with my study group? I mean, things like that. Sometimes it's just helpful to have something written out. And that doesn't mean that you have to use it exactly what it says, but, just helping you as a tool as you're entering into something new that you haven't done before, I think could be really helpful.
I have a
When I was doing the research, I saw that as a student, you can go in and paste your messy notes from class, and then it will organize them into a rule-based outline that just helps you. I mean, that's just giving you time back to where you can actually study instead of, I mean, I know there's the theory of when you rewrite something, you understand it more, but this way it should be a cleaner version for you. And so there were just so many things whenever I was looking like how it can help you. You can take old exams if you're given old exams from a professor and put them in, and then it can create new hypothetical exams based off of that so you can understand. There's just so many ways that you can utilize AI in your day-to-day work as a student to benefit you. And so many schools are they're partnering with there's several law schools that are partnering with a legal AI, which is Harvey is I mean there's several out there, but Harvey is partnered with several larger schools, and they're integrating it into their education, into their classrooms, and teaching you how to utilize it because, like we've said, I think a million times now, it's not going anywhere. So we just need to learn how to utilize it.
I don't want to derail us too much, but the thing that personally, as I've been researching AI for this episode, that I just am grappling with, but I think there's a tie here into the law space. We've talked about how great AI is. I use AI a lot, in workflow and, kind of like a personal assistant, even in my home. I did not know how to turn on my sprinkler system when we first moved into this house, and AI told me exactly how to schedule my sprinkler system,
Mhm.
which I am eternally grateful for. So there are a lot of pros to AI, but I feel like we can't have the AI conversation without also talking about the environmental implications
Mm.
of AI, which I don't think that's for us to solve, but I do think it's for policymakers and lawyers to figure out. So I think that that is also a niche area as this continues to develop. If you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking like, oh, look at all these white women talking about how AI helped them turn their sprinkler system on, you know, they're not even considering that. I mean, I'm someone who believes that water will be a commodity in our lifetime, right? Um, so don't disregard our conversation about AI. I mean, help make an impact on how we use it ethically and responsibly
Right.
and, in a way that is sustainable across time, because I think it is an incredibly useful tool. There are obviously dark sides to it as well. But I guess I don't want anyone listening to this to just dismiss it because we're really just,
Right.
rootin' tootin' AI. Um, but I want this to motivate someone out there to think, okay, we can't put this toothpaste back in the tube.
That's right.
How can I contribute to an ethical society?
Well, I have an idea of how to fix this, and it involves gray water. I'm a plumber's daughter, and so I have some ideas about ways that we can really make this work for everyone. So if you are someone who studies water and you know how to use energy and things, please email me because I really think I have a plan.
Absolutely.
Because of course I do.
She has a plan. Absolutely. But I'm glad you brought that up, Logan. I was just reading an article yesterday about a data center in South Haven, Mississippi, and I was a baby lawyer in Mississippi, and everybody hates on it, but I could write a book about my time there. It holds a special place in my heart. So just talking about the noise pollution and how people aren't sleeping, and so then as we tend to do here at Grad Missions, we go down rabbit holes of things that we can research and learn about, and I went down a rabbit hole and ended up finding a video of someone outside of their home, and I mean, it just sounded like an airport, but constantly. Airport is like stops, stops, and this was just forever. And I'm like, I didn't even think. I mean,
Yeah.
I know that sounds terrible, but I didn't even think about that and how it's affecting. And of course, it's in a community that already struggles in a lot of ways, and um, yeah, so just lots of things. I'm like, there's going to be I need a lawyer for that, to
Yeah.
help tackle such a large corporation. So. Yeah, just lots of things to think about.
I think all of this to say, AI is not going anywhere.
Yeah.
Utilizing it is your best course of action, I think, in any profession. We all shared something we saw on Facebook or Instagram yesterday, and the top comment was something about the people who know how to use AI are the ones coming for your job. It's not that
Yeah.
AI is coming for your job, it's that people who
Right.
know how to use AI are coming for your job.
Yeah.
And I think that's real. And so I think it's to everyone's benefit to learn how to use it. I think there are a lot of specialties to come out of it, certainly in the law or policymaking space. Um, in terms of med school, law school applicants, how do you think someone should be learning to use AI in this process specifically?
So I think if I were looking to apply to law school or med school, I would be paying a lot of attention to the law and med schools who are incorporating this into their curriculum, who are hiring library staff and, MS1 faculty who are incorporating this into your training because you are not going to have extra time and bandwidth in your 1L or MS1 year to be like, oh, also I'm going to be learning this AI along with it. It needs to be baked in. And so there are law schools and med schools who are being thoughtful about this and not just burying their head in the sand. And so I think that would be, yes, of course, US News Rank, of course, geographic region, of course, LSAT, MCAT averages and GPAs, those are a part of the calculus. But if I were deciding, I would also be looking at places that are infusing this into my education already. And I would be talking to young alumni from the med school, from the law school, about what their technology learning curve has been when they entered their professions and how the school did or did not prepare them for that, and how the school is making changes to catch up.
Ooh, that's a good question. That's really good. Because I
Mhm.
think that's huge because you like you said, you're not going to have that extra bandwidth. And so it needs to be incorporated into your education. Or you're going to be as a first year, as Lizanne called it, a baby attorney,
Yeah.
you're going to be learning that life along with trying to master utilizing AI, and that's difficult as well.
Mhm.
But one thing that I think we haven't really talked about um, is that AI shouldn't be the end all be all.
Yeah.
It makes mistakes. There have been attorneys that have like I think Autumn mentioned this last week. If you've ever put in math into AI, it's not always right. And so it may be giving you as an attorney, it may be giving you cases to cite. Well, make sure those are actual cases because there have been attorneys that have cited actual cases thinking they're actual and they didn't go and check and they're not. And so,
Called
uh,
hallucinations. I just learned
yep,
that.
they're called hallucinations.
I was like, what do they keep talking about hallucinating in the CLE? And that
Yeah,
was what I'm
yes.
sorry to interrupt, but
No,
wow.
that's their hallucinations. And so
Yeah.
you need to understand its limits, use it ethically, make sure you're using an AI that is secure and is going to keep your client information secure as well. Verify it really carefully and then use it to leverage your human judgment, not just it's not the human in the process. So.
That's a really good point. That's something that I was reading in the State of Clinical AI report as well, that, the future doctor might not just be interpreting lab results. They are likely also going to interpret AI recommendations.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And I think that's certainly the human part of medicine that is never going away because AI can't account for the messiness of the clinical
that's
environment.
right. That's right.
Yeah, and
Can you
this is
imagine
with the law. I mean, AI is not going to be in the courtroom for you.
No.
They're not. I don't see robots ever defending cases in the courtroom.
no.
It will
No.
always be human.
Can you imagine AI delivering a cancer diagnosis?
Yeah, no.
Can you imagine like trusting just like a blanket AI with treating a complex medical condition for your child? Like, no, I want to look into the eyes of someone, and I'm that pain in the rear patient's mom who says, if this was your kid, what would you do? Like I ask our neurology team that all the time. I'm like, okay, what would you do if it was your kid? And they're like, that's not fair. And I'm like, well, that's the question. That's the
You're right.
question. I want to know if you would do
No.
that.
That's a good point too. And we talk about that a lot here in this space is the human element of being a physician or an attorney. People are coming to you in their most vulnerable moments, and you have to learn to be a human. And I think that's again, one of the things we've talked about here a lot is that's a part of the application process too, because I don't want to say this generation and sound like me all because but we have so much information at our fingertips. I think we're losing the power of connection, even though we're more connected than ever. And so when you're applying and when you're practicing and when you're, in your profession, being able to be a human and look at another human and deliver bad news, collaborate, negotiate, guide, counsel, you've got to start working on that too. And so if you can use AI to help you with learning and logistics and things like that so that you can focus on that human element, that's really, really important as well.
Yeah. And I do think getting familiar with AI is a part of training to be any profession, but especially
Yeah.
a lawyer or a doctor. Our neurology team with my son has started incorporating, of course, they got my consent. They've started incorporating an AI note taker in our visits. And boy, I just think and then at the end they send me a transcript of the things that we talked about. And oh my gosh, like if you've ever taken a child to the doctor, especially one who has medical trauma, they are climbing the walls, they are anxious, they're spinning on that rolly chair. Why is there a rolly chair in the exam room? And they're using it like bumper cars. And like when you're in these instances, sometimes it's really vulnerable and like you're emotional and then you go home and you're trying to explain to your spouse, like, oh, well, they said this and they said this, and why are we titrating this and what are we doing? And boy, it's so nice in my patient portal to log in and be like, oh, yeah, that's what they said. And like, here's the titration schedule and here's all of this. And, it makes sure that my provider isn't missing anything that I say about this little, like, thing we noticed in the sleep schedule or whatever, and that I'm not missing anything in the aftercare as well. And I think, boy, that is such a beautiful use case for AI.
I mean, I think just on your regular doctor visit, not even one that's, I mean, I'm just thinking about my son, my 10-year-old has a broken leg right now, and he heard a different timeline than I heard on our
Mhm.
last appointment. And today he came out without his boot on and said, I'm going to school without my boot. And I'm like, that was not discussed. He's like, yes, it was. I'm like, well, you're wearing it today until I reach out to your doctor. But if I had notes to go back and look at, I could
Mhm.
see if I could fact check him.
That's
So
right.
I know he just wants that boot off, but
Yeah,
yeah, we need to fact check as well. So
for sure.
Okay, so I have some theories for medicine on what specialties are going to be most impacted by AI.
Mm.
And I'll be curious after I share these if my law friends think there are avenues of law that might be more or less impacted by AI. Um, I think pathology and radiology, honestly, pathology and radiology have been early adopters of AI.
Yep.
Um, I think that's mostly because they deal in data, pattern recognition, um, structured visual data. I think that would be pretty common knowledge across the board. I think dermatology actually is another specialty that would be impacted by AI because the visual data is so easy to upload and aggregate. And then actually primary care. I think primary care will also
Interesting.
be impacted by AI because of the enormous clinical burden.
Hmm.
Um, the enormous clinical burden and also being able to maybe triage or prioritize high risk patients based on aggregate data. I
Yeah.
think you'd always rather over prioritize, right? You'd always, you'd rather bump somebody up on the list who might be high risk rather than not catch it in time. And so I think that could be a really positive impact on primary care. So those are my theories on who's going to be most impacted by AI in medicine. Anyone have any? I mean, I honestly don't even know enough about law to know the nuance between the different avenues. So maybe it's just across the board. But someone mentioned negotiations. I mean, mergers and acquisitions. Is that maybe
Yeah, I
more
was gonna
likely, less
say
likely?
anything where you have heavy doc review.
mhm.
So yeah,
When I
M&A,
was doing my research, it
corporate. Yeah.
said, oh, sorry.
No, keep going.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It said it's not going to eliminate lawyers. It's not
Right.
going to eliminate any job. It's just going to eliminate the inefficiency of
Yeah.
them because it can review documents so much faster than a human and point
Mhm.
out the inconsistencies or um, in contracts or labor and employment law. It can be looking at an employment handbook and then apply it to the situation that's at hand. I think the highly emotional areas,
What can it do,
trial,
family law?
family law, criminal law. I don't really see um,
No.
AI will help with the inefficiencies there, but I mean, those are so human driven, emotionally charged that
Mhm.
I feel like those would
Mediation,
be the
any
least
kind of
impacted.
mediation.
Yes.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
think yes to everything Morgan said. Absolutely. I think in terms of like, will it take my job? The only thing I could think of is if you just graduated law school and you're still looking for a job and you get a doc review job. That's a popular thing to do with really big law firms. They'll hire people just for doc review and they may not need to do that anymore. That's kind of a temp job that people will do while they're waiting for something different. So again, I don't want to say that it's completely off the table, but maybe prepare yourself for something like that wouldn't be available. But I really truly see it as more of a helping tool. And yeah, like you said, with those highly emotional, again, it would be a helping tool, but there's just no way that you could replace that a practitioner in that space. So,
I think
I
it's
would
also going to improve. So, I mean, like
right.
enhance, like any IP or governance, compliance,
Yeah.
privacy, cybersecurity. We're going to need more
policy.
attorneys. Yes.
Policy and anything in litigation, anything that could help me review discovery, please give it to me. Like,
Yeah.
anything like that would, I think, again, you need to ensure the accuracy. You need to, but I think it would be really helpful with just the load of reviewing everything.
A lens that obviously we apply to everything is how does this affect the admission cycle? How does this affect the
Mhm.
application experience? And I will tell you, in both law and med school interviews, there have been questions about AI. There have been questions about AI use, questions about AI efficiency, about ethics. And so picking up a book about AI, following some socials around people who are experts in AI around these kind of issues is really going to be important interview prep for you. Like Lizanne mentioned, some of the law schools and med schools have secondaries and supplementals that are hitting on these concepts. So just know that these questions are coming, and you saying, I'm again it is not enough.
You're right. Exactly.
Okay, I think this has been a really thoughtful episode. I am interested to hear if any of you who are either doctors, lawyers, studying, training to be one, or planning to be one someday have thoughts around this. Send us an email, autumn@gradmissions.org. I also have a special offer. If you will subscribe and to this podcast on Spotify or Apple, if you'll give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, send me a screen grab in my email, autumn@gradmissions.org. I will offer you a free 30-minute writing workshop. So if you're already a client, I have another special award for you. So do this. If you're not a client, that's what I'm offering to you. So subscribe and rate us 5 stars.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, we're going to turn the lights off here in the pod loft, but our lights are always on socials. Like Autumn said, you can email her with questions, find us on Instagram, TikTok, all the places. So we'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.